What I want the next generation to know is about where we've come from, and where we are now. Like, I never want our people to forget.
And that language is more Canadian than Canadian.
Our culture is going right along with it. There's only a few elders that can speak Gwich'in.
Our generation to start learning our Gwich'in language.
Once that's gone, who's gonna bring it back?
Hi, I'm Regina. Speak Gwich'in to me.
Thank you very much, JC, for taking the time out of your schedule for chatting with us about this social media campaign, Speak Gwich'in to Me. Talk to me about it. Tell me more about how it all started.
So how Speak Gwich'in to Me started, or how my interest in language started?
Just about Speak Gwich'in to Me.
Okay, so I kind of started thinking about it about 2 years ago. Kind of got a thought here and there, and I was like, so I've been out of the Gwich'in nation for the past, or the Gwich'in region for the past 3 years. I don't jig, I don't go on the land, I don't hunt, I'm not much of a contributing member of my nation, but I have always been interested in the Gwich'in language, and it's my passion to learn the Gwich'in language. And then my partner at the time was actually encouraging me to do something with the Gwich'in language, and the Gwich'in Tribal Council on Facebook shared this language conference details, and I was like, wow, maybe this is my chance. So I looked on it. It was 2 or 3 day conference in Ottawa. I haven't been there before. And I actually just applied. I just talked about my passion for the language and my background growing up in Inuvik and always wanting to know the Gwich'in language. My parents aren't fluent, but my grandparents are and were. So actually I got accepted as a youth representative for the Gwich'in Council International. And
Tell me, how has been the response from your community?
Oh my gosh, it's been totally insane. It's been over a year, and it's just totally blowing up. Every few months I'm on the radio. I'm getting filmed talking about my work. The response is amazing in the Gwich'in Nation, around the Northwest Territories, across Canada, and even beyond. I get contacted about my work almost weekly from PhD candidates, linguists. It's everyone just interested in loving my work, and even started, it sparked the interest in creating Speak Gwich'in to Me, Itwa Scott Ends. She was actually at the same language conference as me. It's totally amazing. She's doing a wicked job. And then this girl, we were following each other on Instagram for about a year or two, and she was inspired to start an Ojibwe language movement in Ontario. And then I get asked permit, and also was a Speak Dene Jati to Me, which is Decho, the Decho language out of Fort Providence. They started something, and I've been contacted by some other nations asking me permission to start their own language movement. And another thing, I was actually following Savvy Simon. She started Speak Mi'kmaq, and I'm not too sure if she was the first person to start the hashtag, but she also sparked other language movements with her work. And I was actually following the language movement that from what I learned from like the websites like National Geographic and other websites that are documenting and following up on this, it started across the world, like I believe around Asia and maybe Australia. That's where I first heard of it, and I followed it for a few years. Started thinking about doing it, went to the conference in Ottawa, and got the inspiration to start my own. Who are we as Gwich'in people if we don't have the Gwich'in language? And I want people to realize it's not always going to be here. There's less than 300 Gwich'in speakers out of 5,000 or so Gwich'in across the world. That's standing at 5% of our nation that speaks it, mostly over the age of 65. Like, if you really think about it, my great-grandchildren and their children may not ever get the chance to even hear Gwich'in, speak it or learn it if we don't do something now.
I want to speak the language like how I was taught, like I was spoken that language when I was growing up, from a baby to maybe age 13. And after that, when my mom passed away, it died. I mean, I no longer had no use for the language because she was the only one that spoke to me and I understood her. So that's where I lost it. And I don't know when I want to try and learn the language. I do have books on the language, but I need to start reading it. But right now I don't feel like I'm settled to do that. And wherever I maybe move back up north, maybe I could try and start learning that language, because I know it's being taught like maybe in McPherson and Inuvik. So I could start going to Gwich'in classes then. But right now I just got to look through books and try to learn and try to get that language back again.
There's a real strength there. There's a real, that's heart. That's like the heart of our culture and our community. And I feel like if we were ever to lose that, it would just be such a sad thing to see go away. Because I know for me, having children now, having my mother speak Gwich'in to them, and me responding when my mom speaks Gwich'in to me, if that were to ever go away, it would be like a part of us that we could never get back, So it's definitely something that I want to hang on to, and I want to make sure that I'm a part of continuing it on. And I just think it's such an amazing movement to be a part of,
JC, tell me a little more, the importance of this language. What do you want the next generations to know about your heritage, about the Gwich'in language?
What I want the next generation to know is about where we've come from, and where we are now. Like, I never want our people to forget or not know our history. Like, for example, an embodiment of Gwich'in history and our strength is my great-grandmother, Joanne MacDonald, the daughter of John Firth. They lived out on the land before, like down the river, up the river, around Sigachik. No one was around. They lived in a cabin. I guess there was around 10 children. That was my grandma and her siblings. And an accident happened, my great-grandmother Joanne McDonald's husband, Billy McDonald, he had an accident with a gun and it shot him fatally. And there was my grandma and her siblings around her father, along with her mother, having to witness that on the land, no one's around. My great-grandmother had to get on, I'm not too sure what kind of boat it would have been, a canoe, probably not a scow, but she had to travel to Gwich'in alone, leaving her kids there and her husband to go and get help. This is breakup. There's ice, there's fast-moving water, and that would have been virtually impossible to do, but she did it. She traveled to Gwich'in by the water and got help, and since then she was known to be a very strong woman. And I think about my family, who I am, and I was like, I'm the great-granddaughter of Joanne McDonald.
I think a lot of people are already saying kind of what, I'm thinking. I think I would say honor the treaties and our right to education, and honor the calls to action by the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. And yeah, I mean, what I've learned in school too is that the Aboriginal people are the fastest growing segment of Canada. And it's, in the Prime Minister's best interest to empower us. And the knowledge is in the language, so yeah.
Why isn't my language important? These are a lot of questions that I had as a youth growing up, as a teenager. Why can't I speak my language? I don't have the resources to speak my language. Why is it only standing at 300 people? It was around 500 when I was in high school. There needs to be more of an emphasis on having the language in the schools, changing the policies to where the English language, the French language, and the Gwich'in language are standing on the same ground. I'll have to do more in-depth research, but if you search how much Indigenous languages of Canada are being funded compared to the French language, it'll go right over your head, that gap there. We're the first people on this land.
We need funding for our language because it's dying out, and we can't do anything until it's always got to do with money. So everything you want to do, learn something, you have to pay for it. So we don't have money like that to sponsor young people to learn the language. Even myself, I'd like to learn it. I got to one day learn how to speak. For me, it's hard because it's really hard for me to even speak it or understand it and try to put the sentences together.
That it's important to revitalize it before it's totally lost. When I was going to school at an early age, that language already was dying out. And people had told me that I concentrated on it all the time, every little bit of it. And there were people, came and told me and saying, well, that language is going to die out. It's 3 more years, I ain't going to be here. I don't know why you're concentrating on it, but I held right in there because I loved it. I loved to listen to it, I loved to speak it, I loved the stories, the culture, the history, all my tradition. And my mother and my grandmother used to tell me, told all of our family, well, don't ever forget who you are, where you came from. So here I am. And any chance I get, I teach it. And I want to see it revitalized so it can be carried on in the right way.
French immersion schools, French immersion classes, even in Inuvik. And then even as a child, I questioned why there was all the kids in French immersion speaking French. And then I was in Gwich'in class and we were like learning colors, animals, weather. I didn't leave Gwich'in class speaking Gwich'in like the kids in French immersion. If you just look at that and compare it, I think that'll give you a picture of what we're going through. My end goal is to make our leaders, our leadership, the government, our teachers, our people, to realize that the Gwich'in language is important. It is a major part of our identity. Who are we as Gwich'in people if we don't have the Gwich'in language?